back to Knits by Lizzy. My name is Lizzy and I'm a vegan knitter from New Hampshire, and today I have a knitting podcast episode for you, and I'm going to update you on all the WIPs I have going on. I have no finished objects today, but I do have a new cast on to tell you about, and then of course some updates on WIPs that you've seen before. It is a very snowy day here in New Hampshire. I woke up to about 10 inches of new snow, and there was already about a foot on the ground already, and so there's like 2 feet of snow on the ground right now. And so this morning I had a fun little photo shoot with my knits in the snow. They did get a bit wet, but I work with acrylic yarn, and so I think it was okay. In hindsight, maybe not the best idea, but it was definitely a lot of fun to romp around in the snow with my WIPs this morning. I'm definitely feeling very wintry and cozy and like the perfect time to chat about some knitting, so I'm really excited to tell you guys what I've been working on. Today I'm going to give you an update on my Staffin Sweater by the Rebecca, which I'm hosting a knit along for along with Delaney of Black Dog Knits. I'm also going to give you an update on the Monday sweater by Petite Knit that I'm knitting for my grandma, and then I have a new cast on, which is a My Jose hood by NORgard Knitters, which is one of those hood scarf combo accessories, and I'm knitting that for my younger sister. And I do have another WIP going on in the background that I talked about during my last episode, and that's the Pearly Cardigan by Lea Ambar that I'm test knitting for, but I have it kind of in timeout right now, so we're not going to talk about it today. But if any of that interests you, I invite you to grab your own project and hang out with us as we chat about some knitting. Before I get into my WIPs, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I'm wearing first. So this is the Nova sweater by the Knit Purl Girl, and it was my finished object of January, and I cast it on right after Christmas and knit it super quickly because I was on holiday break, and then also it's like a pretty big gauge and really fun, so this knit just like absolutely flew by, and it's super warm and cozy because it's knit in worsted weight yarn, and then it's got this really fun colorwork section. And this is actually a free pattern by the Knit Purl Girl, and so it is, yeah, amazing pattern. Absolutely love it. I cannot recommend it enough. And because this was my finished object just this past January, it's my newest sweater right now. I actually talked a lot about this garment in 2 podcast episodes ago, and so if you are interested in hearing more about this garment, you can check out those episodes, but just really quickly, I knit this in Hobbii Amigo XL, and I knit the first size, and I believe it was on 5mm needles. If that's incorrect, I'll just put it on the screen here. So that is the Nova sweater by the Knit Purl Girl that I wear this at least weekly, usually like multiple times a week. I absolutely love it so much. The first WIP that I'm going to update you on is my Staffin Sweater by the Rebecca. I am hosting a knit along for this sweater with Delaney of Black Dog Knits, and I have mentioned this a couple times, so I'm just going to briefly go into the details of the cowl. So the Staffin Sweater by the Rebecca is this all over blocked textured pattern, and when you purchase the pattern, it's one of these mega patterns that she does where there is a vest, a sweater, and a cardigan, and the cardigan also has a round neck version and a V-neck version, and so there's all sorts of options. And Delaney and I both wanted to knit this, and so we thought it might be fun to host a little cowl, and so we are hosting an informal cowl over on Instagram where there's a group message of knitters where we are all talking about this pattern, and we are hosting this cowl through March 15th, and so we are definitely still welcoming new people into the cowl. So if you would like to cast on this sweater, or if you've already cast it on but would like some support or knitting community as you go through this pattern, please feel free to reach out to me at Knits by Lizzy on Instagram. That's knits.by.lizzy on Instagram. Just send me a DM and I will add you to the group chat, and you can join us as we knit this sweater all together. So that is the cowl information, and now I'll show you what I've got on my version. I am knitting the sweater version of this pattern, and I am knitting it out of Hobbii Amigo, which is a DK weight acrylic, and holding it with a strand of vegan mohair. This is Lammy Yarn's Soft Sensations, which is a acrylic and polyester blend, and as you can see, Let's see, hold it up here. As you can see, this is a lace weight mohair that looks a lot like you would see wool animal fiber mohair, but it's an acrylic vegan version. So I absolutely love it. If you have seen any of my episodes before, you know how much I love this yarn and I rave about it all the time. So I'm holding these two together to get a worsted-esque sort of weight, because this is a DK and then a lace weight held together. The color match doesn't seem perfect between these two when you look at them not in the fabric, but there is very little marling going on with me holding these two colors together, and so the fabric is still pretty one, you know, monotone one color. So here is my progress. And last time I had just finished, I believe I had just finished the diamond section. I had just finished the diamond section, and so the way that this pattern goes is that you've got a block of 2x2 ribbing, and then you've got a section where you are adding these, I believe it's called Estonian buttons, but she calls them faux baubles, and so it's really just like a small bauble. So every few stitches you're adding baubles, so you've got this line of baubles, and then you have a diamond pattern that you make out of just knits and purls, and then you've got another line of baubles, and then the pattern repeats itself. And so I've just started on my second repeat of this pattern, and I just split for sleeves. So I am, let's see, I think I've got 3 rows, 3 rows after splitting for sleeves. So that is what I have so far. I honestly go back and forth about how I feel about this project. It definitely helped when I added the collar to really get a sense of how this was going to fit and lay and all those sorts of things. It does have a double folded collar, so you don't start out with some raglans, you start out with the collar. So in this pattern, you don't start out with the collar, you cast on and then you do short rows, and then at any point after that you can go back and pick up the collar. But I wanted to make sure that I knit my collar before I split for sleeves, because sometimes when you add the collar it cinches things up and like brings things up. So before you add the collar you might think that you've got the yoke depth that you want, but then after you add the collar it might increase, and then all of a sudden you have a shorter yoke than you wanted. So I wanted to make sure I added the collar before I split for sleeves. So I definitely like how it looks better with the collar added. But I go back and forth on whether I chose the right yarn for this. I don't think that the texture's not really coming through exactly how I would hoped. I think when I get more of the repeats, it will be a little bit more obvious. And when I found that when I put it on and then I was looking at myself in the mirror to see how it was fitting, that I could see, it was almost like the further away I got, the better I could see the pattern. But as I've been knitting it, you know, you're looking at each stitch at a time. I've been a bit disappointed with how my like stitch definition is coming through. So I think maybe like the fact that I'm using a mohair is maybe was a poor decision. And then this is like a very, it's super soft and it's gonna like feel really great, but it's a pretty like drapey light fabric with this just like 100% acrylic. And so I think that maybe in the future, like the next time I make a textured pattern like this where it's like mainly dependent on knits and purls, so not texture that's not cables or lace, I want to try using an acrylic and cotton blend, because I think the cotton might help with the stitch definition, but then I still want some acrylic in there so that it's soft. I don't think I want a 100% cotton sweater. I don't know how much use I would really get out of that. So I have purchased a long time ago the Storm sweater by Petite Knit, but I haven't made it. I was planning on making it, I guess, at some point, but I haven't made it yet. So I do already have that pattern and I would like to make it at some point. It's pretty similar to the Staffin Sweater in terms of it's just like blocks of different textures. However, this Staffin Sweater is a raglan and the Storm Sweater is a drop shoulder. So different construction and the textures are different as well. So it would be a different sweater. But I do think that when I eventually get around to making that sweater, I think I might try an acrylic and cotton blend. Obviously I'll let you guys know how that goes and if it's any different from the Staffin Sweater in terms of making the texture pop. So essentially what's been going on is as I've been knitting this, I've been like, oh, I don't know, do I like this? When I'm like deep into the process, but then when I put it on, I do like it. And I am happy with when I split for sleeves, which is the point that I'm at now. I just did that. And I did do some modifications to this pattern at this point. So what I've been doing is I've basically kind of gone rogue a little bit in terms of following the pattern. I have kind of just taken the repeating chart of what the texture pattern is and then done a raglan after that. And then she also has a special stitches for what's actually in the raglan inside the point of where you're increasing. So of course, when you're knitting a raglan, you have some stitches that you don't touch, and then you're increasing outside of those. And so those stitches stay the same and they make those like lines. And so within those two lines, there is a specific stitch pattern that you're supposed to do. So I took the specific stitch pattern that I was supposed to do for the raglan and then the textured, but I haven't really been following anything else after the short rows. And the main reason for that is I have been finding it's hard to follow the charts, and we've had a lot of feedback in our Cal group chat about people knitting the other patterns of the cardigan and people knitting different sizes of having issues with the charts lining up to what the instructions are saying. And I believe that the charts were added like during the test knit, so based off of test knit or feedback, meaning that when the pattern was very first written, I don't think it didn't initially have charts, and then charts were added later on. And so there's been some like discrepancies with the charts. And so because of those issues, I just started knitting. I had this pattern that I wanted this sweater to have, and so it's definitely still, obviously it's a Staffin sweater, and I used her initial stitch counts for casting on all these things, so I'm like following the pattern 80%, I guess I would say, but I ended up splitting for sleeves way sooner than was suggested in the charts, and I think my gauge is a little bit off in terms of row gauge, so I should be splitting for sleeves earlier because of my gauge anyways, but I think even with my row gauge discrepancies, I have split for sleeves earlier than what's suggested in the pattern. And I also, that means that I also didn't do all of the increases that are suggested in the pattern. Again, partly because my gauge is a lot looser than, not a lot, but a little bit looser than hers. And so in order to get the same size that I'm going for her, I need to have less stitches. The size that I'm knitting in this is a size 2, and I am using 5.5mm needles because when I used the suggested needle size of 5mm needles, my gauge was a little bit too small, and so I decided to go up to 5.5. So with my sooner than usual splitting of sleeves, I do think I'm gonna end up with a garment that is slightly less oversized than a lot of the sweaters that I've knit in the past. This pattern in general does have less positive ease than, say, Petite Knit patterns. I think it's only like 10 centimeters of positive ease, where a lot of other designers I've encountered have like usually 20 centimeters of positive ease in their sweaters. But I'm learning that I think I prefer slightly less positive ease than the classic 20 to 30 centimeters of positive ease. I'm pretty short, and so I think when I have a super duper oversized sweater, I kind of drown in it. And so I want some oversizedness for a sweater for it to be nice and comfy, but not so much as what is often suggested in patterns. So this is gonna have, I think, like 8 to 10 centimeters of positive ease on me. And when I've tried it on, I am liking how it is fitting. So I am now excited for this pattern, and it is giving me a little bit more motivation to work on it more. I have a kind of deadline for this in terms of I'd like to finish it by the time the Cal ends, and so the Cal is finishing on March 15th. So that gives me like 6 weeks from now. It's beginning of February right now, so I have about 6 weeks to finish the sweater, so it definitely will get done. I just work on it a little bit here and there. It does have this, you know, really pretty big gauge, and so you can get a lot done in a short amount of time, so that's fun. But the other whips I'm about to tell you about are for gifts, and so they have a lot stricter deadlines, and so I am prioritizing those over this. But yeah, this has been this has been a bit of a roller coaster sort of pattern or like knitting experience, where sometimes I like it and other times I don't like it. But having tried it on recently, and you know, I'll show you guys the footage of me trying it on. I think I am now in camp that I like it. So so we're just gonna keep going from there. And also, when I tried it on, I am thinking that the sleeves might be a little bit bigger than I'd like. So I might end up modifying the pattern a little bit in terms of how quick the decreases are within the sleeve. I might do more decreases in the sleeve than what is called for, but we'll see when we get there. So that is the Staffin Sweater by the Crayabea that I'm knitting for our Cal. Again, if you would like to join the Cal, we would love to have you. You just have to reach out to me on Instagram at knits.by.lizzy. Send me a DM and I'll add you to the group message. The next WIP that has been my main focus for the past couple weeks is my Monday sweater by Petite Knit that I'm knitting for my grandma for her birthday. And I am knitting this out of Cascade yarns, Cherub DK in Ivy Heather. I've just got a little bit of a nugget on my current skein here. I'm holding it with that same yarn that I used in the Staffin Sweater, the Lammy yarn Soft Sensations, which is the vegan mohair, and I am holding this light green color with it together, and so there's a really cool marling effect that's going on. The quick story behind this sweater is that when I was home this past Christmas, I saw my grandma for family gatherings, and she asked me to make her a sweater, and so I told her that I would make her one, and her birthday is in February. It actually already passed. It was February 5th, but I am trying to knit the sweater in the month of February. At first, I told her that I would knit this as a Christmas gift for her for Christmas 2025, but I decided I didn't want to wait that long. I wanted to give it to her sooner than that, and so since she had a birthday in February, early in January I cast this on, and so my plan and my hope is to get this to her by the end of February. I do live across the country from my family, so it will take a few days to get to her, and so I really would like to finish this by the beginning of the last week of February. And when she asked me for a sweater, all she said was, I just want it to be green. And so I think that I really nailed it, because I have two greens going on here to have this fun marled color. So before I show you, the quick information about this is that it is going to be a size 4, and I am knitting it on the suggested needle size of 4mm needles, and my gauge is a tiny bit big. So I believe my gauge is 20 stitches and the gauge in the pattern is 21, so I'm just a tiny bit big. So by knitting a size 4, I'm getting a little bit more between a size 4 and 5, but definitely not quite a size 5. So I had just split for sleeves last week, and now I have both sleeves done. So here's one sleeve, here's another sleeve, and I have about maybe like 12 centimeters done on the body. You can see that, about 12 centimeters done on the body. So this is coming along nicely, and this pattern has a really long cuff, so about twice as long as I normally see in patterns for like the ribbing at the end. And so I've got this really nice long cuff. If the sleeves end up being too long, which when I tried it on just now, the sleeves do seem a little bit longer than I wanted them to be. It's so hard when you knit something for someone else that's not here to really know the sizing. This happens like every single time I do a gift knit. You never really know. Even though like I took measurements when I was back home of my grandma and asked her like how long she wanted things. She had a sweater on when I was measuring her, and so I said, oh well, do you want it, like where do you want it to hit here? How do you like the fit of the sweater that you have on right now, and all these things. So even though I took measurements and notes about the size, I still don't really know how it's gonna go. So this sleeve from the shoulder-ish region to the end of the cuff is like 62 centimeters, which is what she wanted. But when I tried it on, it is pretty long. My grandma is a tiny bit taller than me, but not a crazy amount taller. So I am a bit worried that the sleeves are a little bit long, because she said that she wanted to be able to still do things. So if the sleeves are too long, that's not what she wanted. However, because of this really long cuff here, I think that means that if she folded it completely over, the cuff, as long as it is all the way over, when she needed to like wash the dishes or do something, then it would stay pretty well, because you have that ribbing there to cinch it in and yeah, like attach better to your arm. So I think the really long cuff is going to be good for just versatility of the sleeve length, where if she wants to be warm and cozy, she can have the long sleeves, and then if she needs to be doing something and needs her sleeves to be up higher, either by pulling them up, hopefully the really long cuff will help them stay, or she can just fold that whole cuff up and then it will stay. So I think I might give her some suggestions, those sorts of suggestions when I give it to her, in case the sleeve length is wrong. But what I ended up doing is that I finished, after I split for sleeves, I knit through one ball on the body, and then I moved to one sleeve. And I know that a lot of knitters don't like knitting sleeves, and you know, they call it sleeve island because you're stuck there. I am a bit of an odd man out, whereas I actually really like knitting sleeves because it's a really, you know, super small circumference, and then the fact that you're doing decreases every X number of rows is like, makes it potato chippy for me. Like you're knitting stripes or something where, oh, I'm already at another decrease, or I'll just knit until the next decrease tonight, and then, oh, well, wait, I'm gonna knit another one. So I love sleeves. So I ended up jumping to a sleeve after knitting through one ball on the body, and my plan was to then knit another ball on the body before I knit the second sleeve, but I was just having so much fun doing the sleeves that I just went ahead and knit the second sleeve. So that's why these have two sleeves done before the body's even done. And I did a tubular bind off here on the cuff. So I did 4 rounds of setup rows, so 2 rounds of double knit, 2 total rows end up being there of double knitting, and then I did a sewn bind off after that, which I think it looks pretty clean. I always love how that looks. I personally think the time it takes to do an Italian bind off is worth it. So that's what I did on both of the sleeves, and now I'm at the point where I am just working on the body. She wants this sweater to be pretty long, so longer than you would normally knit a sweater, so not only not cropped, but extra long, basically, based off of the sweater that she was wearing at the time that I was taking all her measurements. She said that she really liked how extra long it was, and so she wants, the note I have is 63 centimeters from shoulder to the end of the hem, which in hindsight, like, that's not a good measurement. I should have measured from like the cuff, or not the cuff, the collar all the way down, because what's the shoulder, like what point on the like slope of the raglan, the top of the slope going down the sleeve is the shoulder. So I actually don't really know where the exact point is that I measured. So, you know, hindsight 2020, that's what I should have done, but I didn't. So I'm trying to interpret my my measurement, and the point that this sweater is at right now, it was even longer than I would have knit the stockinette before knitting the hem. I have currently measured what I have right now for this garment from the shoulder-ish region down to where I am now, and is about 49 centimeters, and she wanted like 62 to 63 centimeters at that mark, and I think I'm gonna do like 8 centimeters of ribbing at the hem. I don't think I'm gonna make the hem quite so long as suggested in the pattern or what I did in the sleeves. So in the sleeves, even though those cuffs were super long, I did a couple centimeters less than what the pattern suggests, and I think I'm gonna do a little bit less than even that for the hem. So I'm gonna do like 8 centimeters, I think, of hem, and so if I'm at 49 centimeters of stockinette from the shoulder-ish region, that means, let's do a little math, That means I have 5 more centimeters of stockinette to knit before I start the ribbing at the end. So this project is coming along nicely. I definitely think I'm gonna be able to finish it before like my goal for the end of February. And the plan is that the cast on that I'm gonna tell you about next is also a gift knit for someone in my family. And so I can mail both of those items at the same time. And so this one will definitely be done in time. And so if I spend a lot of time on my new cast on, I should be good to go for these gifts for the February birthdays in my family. I am so excited to give this to her. Her birthday was, again, it was on the 5th, and so what I did, since it wasn't, ideally would have been ready on the 5th, but it wasn't, that's okay. So what I did is I just sent her a picture of the work in progress and told her that it was coming, and she was very excited about it, and so I'm so excited to give it to her. And the fabric is this fabric of holding the Lammy Yarn Soft Sensations mohair with Cherub, Cascade Yarn's Cherub, I guess DK, but they also have a sock version, which is a 50% nylon, 50% acrylic. It makes such a light fabric that is still so soft. It is just heavenly, and I cannot wait to make a simple raglan for myself in it. That won't be a cast on that I do immediately, but definitely at some point in 2025, I'm knitting myself a basic sweater like that. Maybe in a beige-ish color to make it just like really versatile and something that I wear all the time. So I'm really looking forward to that. And this is kind of like knitting the sweater is scratching that itch a little bit. So yeah, the Monday sweater, I've talked about it before, but I really, and it's another thing that I cannot recommend enough. The fit is just perfect. It is just perfect. There is a ton of short rows in the back that helps with the fit, and it is the perfect like sweatshirt type style raglan. And yeah, I love it, love it, love it, love it. So that's the update on my Monday sweater that I'm knitting for my grandma. Before I go, I just want to do another zoom in here and show you guys the marling that happens. Yeah, isn't that so fun? I'm having a marling moment, and these two greens together look so good. So happy with it. So those were my whips that you guys have seen before, and now I'll get into my new cast on, which is the My Jose Hood by NORgard Knitters. And this is a complete garter stitch knitted hood and scarf combo, and it is fairly popular right now. I've definitely seen several other people knit this online, and the pattern was pretty high on the Ravelry Hot Right Now list for a while. Like it was in the top 3, I think, at one point. So it's having a moment, and I really wanted to try the pattern out anyways. And then when I was home this past Christmas, my sister, who has a birthday in February as well, said that she really wanted some sort of scarf that she could wrap around her head, and I immediately thought of this pattern, and I said, perfect. I have some stash yarn that I can use to knit this for you, which is the Knit Picks Brava Sport, another 100% acrylic yarn. I believe this is the color Current. It's this really nice kind of deep maroonish wine looking red. And the funny story about this that I've mentioned before, so I'll just retell the story briefly, is that I actually knit a Sophie shawl, which is a very similar type of pattern, a really big wraparound scarf that's all garter stitch. I knit that for my sister for her birthday last year. And she, at the time, was living in New York City, and I mailed it to her, and either the post office messed up or I got the address wrong, like mixed up her street number and her apartment number or something, but it never arrived to her, and I never even took any pictures of it. It was before I was podcasting or had like an Instagram or anything like that, and so I wasn't as... I still was taking pictures of a lot of things for Ravelry, but I wasn't quite as thorough with the picture taking as I am now. And so it's like that I didn't even knit that project, even though it's not an insignificant amount of knitting. Like it's quite a bit of knitting. These like wraparound scarf shawl things are quite a bit of knitting. So my sister really still wanted that garment or that accessory, and so she said, oh, can I have something like that again, please, for her birthday this year and actually make it to her. And so because she does want something that goes around her head, I thought it would be better to do a proper hood scarf combo pattern instead of just knitting the Sophie shawl again. And then also I just didn't want to knit the same pattern twice. And I found when I was knitting the Sophie shawl, I was expecting it to be completely mindless, but you have to keep track of your increases. And so I had a fine knitting experience with that, but not like a stellar one, and so I didn't want to knit it again. So that's why I'm making the My Jose hood by NORgard Knitters. This is, again, yeah, completely garter stitch, and it's going to be finished with I-cord edging all around it, and then it also has I-cords coming off like the tips of the scarf part of this, and then you tie it. However, my plan is to finish it with a button instead of those ties. What I'm gonna do is when I get to that point where I'm towards the end of the scarf part, I'm gonna add some buttonholes, and I think what I'm gonna do is just add like a series of them, maybe 4 different ones spaced apart, so that she can choose how tightly she wants it wrapped around her. So if she wants it pretty kind of loose, she can use the buttonhole that's the closest to the edge, or if she wants it tighter, she can use a buttonhole that's further down. Or I also was thinking it might be hard to line up the buttonhole and the one button really easily. Like if you wrap it around yourself like a different way, I still want it to be easy for her to find a buttonhole to put her button through. And so I think I'm just gonna add several buttonholes, just like do a yarn over basically a couple times to make a hole that she can put the button through. And so that's my very slight modification that I'm gonna do to this pattern. So the way that this is constructed, I think is really cool. So first what you do is you just cast on a square. I don't know if you can see. You just cast on a square, and then you pick up at the different edges and then join it, not in the round, but join it all together. And then you just do a bunch of increases out from that square to have a hood part, and then it just kind of keeps going and all of a sudden turns into also having a scarf. And there's 4 different like sets of increases where you're increasing at different rates, and so you're increasing at one rate, and then the next step is that you're increasing a bit faster, and then the next step is you're increasing a bit faster than that, and then you're increasing even faster than that, so that you're getting at one point you're going to end up with like elongation happening faster than like what's growing in the like row direction. So I have completed 2 of the sets of increases, the 2 different steps of increase rates, and so I'm about to enter the third of the fourth 3 of 4 increase rate sections, but I don't think that means that I'm halfway, because obviously as you're increasing faster and faster, you're going to get more stitches on your needles, and so each row is going to be taking longer and longer. And so the way that I'm kind of thinking about it is that I think I've created, like as you can see here, I've like created the hood part, and I'm about to start the scarf part. So I'll just like throw this on my head. It's on, it's not on tubing, it's on needles, but I have it on like the largest needle that I have, or largest cord that I have, so that I don't have to change it again. I had it on a small one when I was just doing the little square that goes right here, but then when that became too squished, I decided, okay, I'm just gonna put it on the longest cord that I have because it's knit flat, so then I won't have to change it again. So this is what we have right now. It looks a little funny, like it's garter stitch, right? So it's kind of cinching in a little bit. And also the gauge called for this pattern is 18 stitches, and my gauge is 19 stitches, so it's a little bit small. I decided to not modify it a bunch, and I'm just gonna, when I block it, like stretch it out a little bit because it's garter stitch and really stretchy. But this is what we've got right now. You can see, maybe you can see that it, you know, goes around the back, and there's gonna be some I-cord edging around it right here, and so it's just started to get to the point where I'm gonna wrap. I'm looking at the viewfinder now. Oh, it looks so fun. This is gonna be so warm and cozy. I'm really hoping this is what my sister was envisioning. So Janelle, if you're watching right now, I hope this is what you wanted, because this is what you're getting. Yeah, it's pretty fun. And it's been a pretty nice knit. I have enjoyed it more than I enjoyed the Sophie shawl. I think it's all just like an expectations thing. So when I was knitting this hood, I knew that there were gonna be, you know, some construction elements. Obviously, like there's several things going on, like you have to create a hood part and a scarf part. But when I was going into this maybe was naive of me at the time, but when I was going into the Sophie shawl, I was like, ah, it's garter stitch scarf. I'll be basically just knitting and not really having to think about anything. But then there is some like kind of shaping in that shawl, and so you do have to like keep track of what you're doing and pay attention. And I guess at the time that's not what I was wanting. But the slight bit of attention that you need to pay for this pattern is like just enough to keep it from being boring, and just like keep your attention a little bit. And I think it's kind of cool that there's different sections of different rates of increases, and so that's, you know, I can track my progress for, oh, I'm halfway through this section of increases, or I'm gonna knit until I get to this many increases or whatever. And I've been able to keep track of the wrong side and the right side, which you do need to know for the pattern, by adding a stitch marker onto the wrong side. You can still tell what the wrong side is without the stitch marker, because you have to pick up stitches at one point, and so there's like a seam that's like sticking out on the wrong side. But as I've been knitting, that seam has been getting like further and further down, and so it's harder to see quickly when I flip around to the wrong side that I'm on the wrong side. And so this was a suggestion in the pattern, and I think it was a good suggestion to add a progress keeper or stitch marker so that you know which side is the wrong side. And so I actually am using one of the progress keepers that my sister, who I'm knitting this for, got me for Christmas. And so this is just like a really pretty tulip progress keeper that I'm using to keep track of the wrong side. And I recently decided that I'm also going to use it to keep track of those sections of increases, because it's pretty hard to tell where your increases are in garter stitch, in my opinion. In stockinette, I find it very easy to see where my increases are, but I guess because of like the purl bump rows being the fact that you can see the purl bumps on both sides kind of hides hides where the new stitch is slanting. And so when I look back through my knitting, I find it personally hard to read where those increases are in garter stitch. I've decided that I'm going to keep that progress keeper at the beginning of when I start the new set of increases, where the rate of those increases is changing. And so when it says do this many rows of this type of increasing, I can go back to my progress keeper and then just count how many rows I have, and then I'll know how many increases I've done. And so then I can say, oh, I have many more rows to go, or oh, I only have 1 or 2 more rows to go. It looks like I'll count my stitches and see what stitch count I'm at. And so I think that's going to help me keep track of how far I've gone within each of the different sections where the rates of increases are changing. So that's my current plan, and that's why this progress keeper is right at the beginning of the you know, it's right where my cord is right now, because I just finished the second section of increases and I'm about to start the third, where my rate of increase is about to go even faster. So I will keep that progress keeper there, and it will end up being lower and lower and lower as I knit, and then I'll be able to tell when it's time to start the final set of increases. So this has definitely been something new for me. I have never knit a hood before, and I haven't really knit that many scarves even either. The last time I knit a scarf was that Sophie shawl back in February of 2024 that ended up getting lost. And then before that, the very first project that I ever did when I was like teaching myself how to knit was a just like straight scarf, which I think is, you know, pretty classic very first knitting project. And at the time I thought that I was knitting stockinette because I was only knitting, but I didn't understand that when you knit on both sides of a flat, when you knit both sides flat, that's actually garter stitch, not stockinette. And so I think like that was what I was envisioning that I was going to get out of it, was a stockinette scarf, but I didn't, because I didn't know what I was doing. So it was a garter stitch scarf, which I guess we have somewhere around here. I ended up giving it to my boyfriend, but But those are the only 2 other scarves that I've made, and so I've never made anything like this. But it's been pretty cool to watch it come alive. And I also just recently released a video where I went over some other hood patterns, and so if you are interested in also knitting a hood pattern and want to know what a few of those patterns are that are out there that you can knit, I did just release a video discussing 10 different hood patterns. Obviously there are a lot more than 10 hood patterns out there, but these are just a few that I thought were pretty or fun, and there's a pretty good variety of different hoods in that video. Where if you wanted a hood with a scarf, there's a couple options that I discuss, and then also if you wanted just the hood and not a scarf attached, there's several patterns like that as well. So if you are inspired by this My Jose hood pattern and it's piquing your interest, but maybe you want something a little different, you can feel free to check out that video as well to see to kind of quickly see what other styles of hoods there are out there. Again, that is the My Jose hood by NORgard Knitters that I'm knitting for my sister for her birthday, which is at the end of February, and my hope is that I can mail this accessory and the Monday sweater garment over to my family hopefully in the like 3rd week of February, so that's like in 2 weeks. So hopefully I can finish this in 2 weeks. So this will very hopefully be a finished object in my next episode. That brings us to the end of what I was going to show you guys today. I do have another WIP in the background, as I mentioned, which is the Pearly Cardigan by Lea Ambar. It looks exactly the same as what you saw last time because I have put it on pause because of these gift knits, but my plan is once I finish these 2 gift knits to bring that one back out, and then I also will be putting a lot more effort into my Staffin sweater as well once that happens. So I think that the next episode after this will bring a little bit of change to what you're seeing here. I am looking forward to casting on some things for myself here pretty soon. I did some gift knitting for Christmas, and then I knit this sweater right here for myself, the Nova sweater, but then I've cast on these gift knits as well, so it's been quite a bit of gift knitting in the past 4-ish months, 3 to 4 months. So I am getting ready to, you know, mentally getting ready to knit some more things for myself as well. I think that the first cast on after the, you know, the Staffin sweaters for myself too, but the next cast on after my Pearly Cardigan is done and the Staffin sweater, I think it's going to be the book club cardigan by Sorry Nordland that I have the yarn for already and the buttons, and I've been meaning to make that for so long, and I feel drawn to knit some cables right now. I really want to be knitting cables, maybe because I have a lot of you know, this hoods and garter stitch, so it's just knitting all the time, and then I have stockinette in the round going on, which is just knitting all the time, and so I feel like knitting some cables. I did see a post from Sorry Nordland just the other day of a work in progress that she has, which is the book club pullover, so the sweater version of the book club cardigan, and so I'm a little intrigued by that, but I think I want the cardigan. I think I'm just gonna go ahead with the cardigan. And I have buttons. I have buttons already for them. I got buttons at Rhinebeck, so it's these like wooden toggle buttons that I'm gonna use for that, because I have a brown yarn and a brown mohair that I'm gonna hold together for that project, and then I've got these wooden brown toggle buttons as the closures for that, so that's gonna be really fun. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting into some cables here pretty soon. I'm just in a cable mood, even though I'm not knitting any cables. I want another cable like pullover sweater as well. I've knit one for myself, which is the Arctic Light sweater by Veronica Lindberg, which absolutely love the pattern. It's so beautiful and I'm really proud of that sweater that I knit, but I knit it out of a DK weight only, and it was pretty thin DK, and so one, my gauge was like totally off, but I accounted for that, so I got the size garment that I want, but it's a much lighter sweater than I think it's really like meant to be, and I think it would be really nice to have a pullover, cabled pullover sweater that's knit in a like true worsted weight yarn, like maybe Hobbii Amigo XL that I used for this, which is a worsted weight 100% acrylic. It might be nice to have a like white or just off-white pullover in some sort of cable. So I might be doing some browsing of Sorry Nordland's collection to see see if I get inspired by any of her designs. So actually that brings me to something. So if you have an all over cabled sweater pattern that you really love, would love to hear your guys' suggestions for cabled patterns that you've knit before and really loved. The main cabled designer that I know of and go to is Sorry Nordland, but I'm definitely open to you know, her designs, or if there's another designer that you really love, I would love to hear that, and look into getting inspired about some cables. So that's all I have for you today. Again, if you are interested in joining the Staffin Cal and knitting that Staffin sweater with us, please send me a DM on Instagram at knitstopby.lizzy. And if you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you would give it a thumbs up. That helps it reach more viewers like you. And if you enjoy knitting content in general, please feel free to subscribe. I make a lot of knitting podcasts on this channel and some other knitting related content. And so I would love to have you hang out with us more often. So with that, I'll send lots of big hugs to everyone, and I'll see you next time. Bye.